Now we're going to talk to a person who's been on the show a number of times, a person we really respect, and glad he's on to talk to us today, because we're going to ask him probably the most important question we've asked him so far. It's Representative John Yarmuth from Kentucky. Representative, it's great to have you back on the program.
Hey, Jen, good to be with you.
All right. First, let's start with the Massachusetts election, of course. How did the Democrats take that? What lesson did they learn from that? That I think is absolutely critical.
Well, I think that what my colleagues have taken from it is that there's a danger in overreacting to it, but the one thing that I think is pretty clear is that there is a populist fervor out there that does not want to return to Republican policies, that wants the government to act in the best interests of middle-class America, and that they right now don't trust anybody to do that. And that's both a challenge to us and a real opportunity is the way I look at it.
Representative Yarmuth, first of all, I couldn't agree with that more. There is definitely a challenge and an opportunity there. But the question lies in, and this is the most important question, which direction did the Democrats decide to go? Because there are Democrats now, like Evan Bayh, Joe Lieberman, counseling the Democrats to go further right, and that the answer is, look, we were too liberal, and we need to go more towards the Republicans. And then there are Democrats who say, no, we missed the whole point. The reason these guys are voting against us is because we didn't deliver the change that they voted for, so they're voting for change again. Of those two paths, my guess is I know where you stand, but where do you have a sense of where the Democratic caucus on the House side stands at this point?
I think the Democrats that I've talked to today, and you know, I'll be very, very honest, this has been a wake-up call. It's changed the political landscape here, and it's changed the psychology here, and it's, I think it's, I just came from a meeting of a pretty diverse group of members, and it was, you know, we can do a lot of things. We have to stop worrying about the White House. We have to stop worrying about their positions. We have to act like populist Democrats and work for the working families of America. And what do you call it? Liberal, more conservative? I think it's meaningless. I mean, we've got to make this economy work for everybody. And right now, we're being perceived, Democrats in Congress, as being part of the same game that's been played for a long time. And we've got to figure out how to break that. And the only way we can do that is acting, not worrying about the Senate, not worrying about Barack Obama's deals. You know, we all support Barack Obama, but we have an opportunity to lead here, lead decisively, and we're going to do that and then see what happens.
What I'm hearing from you is that the House Democrats have finally figured out, oh my God, it's my ass on the line. I'm going up for re-election soon. And Barack Obama could want to cut all the deals he wants with big pharma or the insurance companies or the bankers. But if I cut those deals, I'm not going to win the next election.
Well, exactly. I mean, there are people who said, and I feel exactly this way. Look, this is not who we are. We're not here to support a president's deals, no matter, even if they're aimed at getting to a very noble goal. We have principles. We're going to stand for them, and these are co-equal branches of government. And to be honest, we basically said, I think, as a group collectively over the last year, we've got to do what the president and the administration says, because ultimately that's in everybody's best interest. Well, but we have to make a statement, right? You know, one of the things that disturbs me is, right now, I think this is one of the lessons of Massachusetts. Nobody in this country has any credibility anymore. And the reason that Glenn Beck has any audience or Sarah Palin has any constituency is because the people have become very cynical about politicians, all politicians, athletes, business people, you name it. And that, again, that's a challenge, but it's also an opportunity for us, because the first people who make a promise to the American people, keep it, act responsibly, are going to get the credibility, and then they'll have the opportunity to lead. And I think we have that chance. The president still has that chance. And that's where I think we want to go.
We're talking to Representative John Yarmuth from Kentucky. He's a Democrat in the House, of course. Congressman, I want to move on to health care in a second, but one last note on that, which is that, you know, if you don't go in that direction, the alternative is painted as centrism. That's what Lieberman calls it, right? If that were true, it might not be such a bad idea. But it's not really centrism, is it? Isn't it corporatism that what Lieberman says is, hey, let's make a deal to kill the public option, to kill Medicare buy-in, to kill all these things so that the lobbyists will give us more money and the health insurance companies and the drug companies will be happier. Isn't Washington making a giant mistake in conflating centrism, what is actually corporatism, and conflating it with centrism?
I think you're absolutely right, Jake. I mean, we've had last year, $400 million was spent by health company lobbyists to influence the healthcare legislation. $300 million was spent to stop financial reform. If we look like we are in any way accommodating those interests, you can call it centrism, you can call it corporatism, whatever you want to label it, it undermines the credibility of the government to respond to issues that affect 300 million Americans. And if we do that, we lose our credibility, and then we lose our ability to govern.
All right, so now let's go to health care.
Okay.
So given what's happened here in the changed landscape that you discussed in Washington, first of all, can we agree that the current version of health care reform, the bill that's in the Senate, and I guess the one in the House as well, that they're dead?
I would say that's probably true. I think there's no question that there is no appetite in the House, none, to pass the Senate bill. It does two things that are basically irreconcilable with, again, this democratic philosophy, and that is we cannot ask working families, whether they're unionized or not, to pay taxes on their health care benefits. That's a non-starter. And whether the White House cuts a deal with the unions, that actually makes it worse because cosmetically it's bad. But we just can't do that. And secondly, we've basically said we're going to throw billions and billions of dollars of more business to insurance companies with very limited restraints on them. We're not even going, under the Senate bill, we're not even going to eliminate their antitrust exemption. So this is really a non-starter in the House, and I don't think that we're willing at this point to say, okay, we'll pass the Senate bill and then we'll make changes. I don't think anybody trusts the Senate enough to do that. So from that perspective, I think the Senate bill is a non-starter. Our House bill, which, by the way, is very close to what Massachusetts has in place in their state, is still, it would be wonderful to pass it, but I don't think, on the other hand, it's pretty clear that we don't have 60 votes in the Senate for that bill. So, I know the leadership is working very hard now to figure out what we can do. There are a lot of members who are recommending that we break the bill up, pass different parts of it that have broad public appeal, and then would put the Republicans in the position of either voting for them or else being labeled as supporting special interests. That strategy is under consideration, and I think the White House has said today that they were thinking about breaking the bill up to maybe accomplish the same thing. So,
okay,
but I agree. The Senate bill is clearly dead in the House, and I think the House bill is clearly dead in the Senate. So we're looking for Plan B or C.
Okay, that's very important because we just saw Barack Obama on ABC saying, yes, that we're going to try to pass the parts that we all agree on. Now, that could be interpreted in two different ways. So, and you just mentioned something very similar. So what is it that we can all agree on? What are the parts of the bill that you think are easier to pass or that are going to be stripped out and concentrated on?
Okay, the parts that are really easy to pass, I think, are the insurance reform. So those things that prohibit excluding people for pre-existing conditions or denying coverage for pre-existing conditions, rescinding coverage, imposing lifetime limits or annual caps on coverage, the things that drive bankruptcies, and those are pretty easy. Keeping somebody on your insurance, a young person on parents' policies till they're 26 or 27, those are vastly popular, widely popular, and should be easy to pass. The things that are tougher to pass are, well, let's go to Medicare for a minute. Things like reducing narrowing the donut hole on prescription drug coverage. Those things, I think, will be widely popular. Eliminating the antitrust exemption for insurance companies, I think, will be incredibly popular on a national level. It will be interesting to see how the Republicans vote on that. So there are things we can do to reform the delivery system. The tough stuff, which is how do you expand Medicaid, and then how do you handle the additional cost to the states? The pay for is an additional coverage. I mean, if you're going to add 30 million or so more people, how do you do that, and how do you pay for it? Those are the tough questions, and there's no agreement on that. The good thing about that, though, Cenk, is that those provisions of the bill did not go into effect until 2013 or 2014 anyway. So if we can make this first step with some of these really important reforms that benefit the vast majority of American people now, gain their confidence, then the next step, which we can probably do and implement just as soon as we would if we passed the bill now, may become more possible.
We're talking to Representative John Yarmuth. He's from Kentucky's 3rd Congressional District. And I want to get to reconciliation next. If you pass the popular parts through normal process, right, is it then possible to go back to whatever it might be, a public option, a Medicare buy-in, whatever it is that's going to actually bring down costs so that you could add those 30 million people extra? Can you pass that through reconciliation? Is that a smart way to go? Do you think that's the proper strategy for the Democrats?
I think today that would be a disastrous approach. Because I think there's a lot of skepticism out there about the way a lot of this has been crafted and done. I think if we did anything that seemed to circumvent the normal processes, that we would be perceived as being tone deaf to the people who say, let's do everything transparently, let's keep it out in the open. So I would think that reconciliation would be a problem right now, just as trying to pass something before Senator-elect Brown was sworn in. Those things I just don't think we can do right now.
That's very interesting.
That would kind of reinforce that narrative out there that the Democrats are arrogant and insensitive and so forth. I think that would be tough to do.
That's really interesting, Congressman, because I don't agree with that at all. I think okay, because Republicans passed many things through reconciliation. They never needed 60 votes, and the filibuster is not something that's constitutional. It's not part of the Constitution, I should say. Right. And they're being absolutely obstinate in its use. By that I mean they've broken all records in how many times that it's been used. This is not normal. This is not regular. So it seems to me that if you say, well, I'm not going to go down the reconciliation path and I'm going to let them block every bill with a filibuster, that's a concession to the Republicans that's hard to recover from.
Well, you may be right, Jack, and I mean it's frustrating for a lot of us, but again, there is a reality here, and the reality is that we have kind of lost the message war here. It's not just Massachusetts, because I think a lot of our members are hearing kind of the same thing all over the country, and that is, you're really not acting on the up and up. I think it was a mistake for, the president said all the negotiations were going to be on C-SPAN, which was a silly thing to say, but that's being thrown up against a lot of these discussions that have been going on recently. That deals with special interests, and I just think,
But you don't need any of those deals if you go through reconciliation. You say, you're right, I'm not going to cut any deals.
You're absolutely right.
I mean, look, here's the thing.
We think that's right.
There's an interesting...
We think that's right. We don't know that we have 51 votes for a lot of these things. We assume we do.
Now, there was an interesting poll by Survey USA saying, look, if you ask Americans, if you give them a mandate and say you got to pay up to 2% of your income for that mandate, and you don't have an option of a public option or a Medicare buy-in, they're dead set against it. Okay, they don't want it, right? Now, if you say to them, on the other hand, yeah, I'm going to give you that mandate, same exact mandate, but I give you a public option or a Medicare buy-in, especially a Medicare buy-in, then they flip completely and say, yes, I'm definitely in favor of it. So, isn't that persuasive?
I was with a bunch of reporters today who asked me, all these different options, and what do you think? We said, what would you like to do? I said, I'd like to pass Medicare for everybody, because I think that would be broadly popular, and I think it would, the American people would love it.
Yeah,
and, maybe we'll be there sooner rather than later, but...
because the other advantage of that, Representative Yarmuth, if I could, is that you get to say to the American people, no deals. There's no drug company deal. There's no deal for the healthcare companies, the doctors, the hospitals, the lawyers, the unions. There's nothing. All it is a Medicare buy-in. Everybody understands what Medicare is. Now you could buy into Medicare. Simple as can possibly be.
If you and I were voting, Jake, it would be done.
So, okay, and the final question.
And we may have had this discussion before, but one of the things that is very clear. Medicare is like every other insurance company. In order for it to remain viable, you have to have people who use it intensively, and you have to have people who don't use it at all. As long as Medicare insures only the most intensive users of healthcare, it's going to be financially disastrous. So we need to get more people, and younger people who are who don't use the system as much, and that's why I think Medicare for everybody is not just great because it allows people to buy good coverage, but it will help sustain the Medicare system because it's like any other insurance pool. Then it will be. Right now, it's we only insure. It's like you only insure people when they need it the most, and like selling people fire insurance only after they've had a fire. That's not going to work.
So, final question then is, who's standing in the way? Who's saying on the House side, hey, you know what, we can't go in that direction. That's too simple. That we need to cut deals. I don't know what it is. I'm not, I don't want to put words in people's mouth. Mm-hmm. But what's blocking that path? Well,
the administration took single payer insurance off the table at the outset. I think that was a mistake. But who's standing behind it now? We were way too far down the road, I think, this year to say, okay, we're going to put single payer or Medicare for everybody back on the table. But I do think we can make take some important steps on the insurance reform bill. These would deal with people who have insurance that will gain their confidence that we're not trying to take stuff away from them, and then we can act over the next few years to add those 30 to 35 million more people, whether it's through a public option exchange or whether it's through Medicare for everybody, because then people will believe that we know what we're doing. And right now, that's the most important thing we have to do, convince people we have a sense of where we're going and we know what we're doing. And I hope we can do that in the next couple of weeks.
All right. United States Congressman John Yarmuth from Kentucky's 3rd District. Thank you so much for joining us on the Young Turks. Really appreciate it.
Okay, Jan. Good to talk to you.
All right.
Take care.
You too. Young Turks.